Welcome back to Lost Test Channel. My name is Anton Vieltsin and I'm a criminal defense attorney in the Southern District of California, here in San Diego. In this video, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to share with you an interesting case that I handled the last year and a half. In the last few weeks, my client was sentenced and there was a lot of news made about this case. After all, it was one of the bigger cases that this district sees, and we are the second busiest district in the country. The case involved a semi-submersible vessel, basically a little submarine, that was caught in the middle of the Pacific Ocean with roughly 4,400 pounds of cocaine. In the last weeks, there were articles made in the local newspaper and online. One of those articles said a man was caught trying to smuggle coke in a homemade sub for the second time. And a subheading said, "Building your own submarine is pretty impressive, no matter what it's used for." Yes, it is pretty impressive to build your own submarine, but that's not what happened here. Nobody puts $35 million worth of coke in a homemade submarine. That's just silly. There were a 4-person crew on this ship, and it was making a trans-Pacific route towards the United States, towards Mexico really. So let's get the record straight and discuss this case. In this video, we'll be discussing stateless vessels at high seas. Before we start, I want to mention something about this case. As you already know from the introduction, this was my own case. I represented this individual in the Southern District of California for roughly the last year and a half, until sentencing a few weeks ago. After sentencing, there were a number of news articles made about the case. It was rather large for this district. And before we discuss the facts of the case and the state of the law, I just want to mention the fact that the Assistant United States Attorney that handled this case was very professional and very easy to work with. And we were lucky to have a very experienced judge. So the focus of this video is going to be with my disagreement with the state of the law as it deals with stateless vessels. So first, let's discuss the facts, and then we're going to talk about the law. And at the end of the video, I urge you to leave comments and let me know how you feel about the state of the law. So here's what happened. My client was operating a semi-submersible vessel with roughly 4,400 pounds of cocaine. Now, there were 4 people on this vessel, and all 4 of them were charged with a crime. They had roughly $35 million worth of narcotics, and this is according to the United States Attorney's Office. After this case was done, they had a media coverage and they presented the case. And if you go on their website, you can read a little bit more about it. There was some James Bond stuff going on. Basically, when this boat was first stopped, it was in the middle of the ocean. The way the semi-submersible vessel looks like is it's basically kind of a small submarine. You have the majority of the boat that's underwater, and then you have 4 engines in the back. I will post a video or a picture here to the left so you can see how it looks like. Essentially, at first, the United States Coast Guard tried to stop the boat. They made warning shots, and the vessel still didn't stop. Then they shot more rounds at the engine, trying to kill the engines. That didn't work. And then the James Bond stuff comes in. One of the United States Coast Guard officers actually jumps from their own boat onto this semi-submersible vessel, and they pull the fuel line from the engines. Now, this is kind of a crazy stuff if you think about it, to do something in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. My client was charged with essentially 2 crimes. Possession of cocaine with intent to distribute on board of a vessel which is a violation under Section 46, Section 70503. And operation of a semi-submersible vessel without nationality under 18 U.S.C. 2285. Operating a semi-submersible vessel without nationality is a crime in itself, even if there's no drugs found on the boat. So here's what the facts are. And so when I earlier mentioned the article about a semi-submersible vessel and it's homemade, well, that's just silly. 4,400 pounds of cocaine. I have a 1969 Chevy C10, and that weighs roughly 3,000 pounds. So we're talking about a truck and a half of weight. That's a lot of drugs. So now let's talk about a little bit of the history and the law. Hey, sorry for the interruption, but are you enjoying this video? Have you subscribed to my channel? Did you make your spouse and your friends subscribe? If you have, thank you so much. If you haven't, click the button now and support this channel. I really appreciate it. If we look at the history, flags have been used forever to demonstrate authority, basically to show other countries that you have your own nationality, and for communication purposes. If we look at the history books, the British, the ancient Chinese, they were all using flags. At some point, the British Navy started using flags to basically show other ships where to stand during war. And so they were communicating with each other using flags. And so flags have been around for a long time. But nothing indicates that flags were required in ancient, medieval, or modern history. If you read more about this subject, you will learn that there's no requirements dealing with flags. Essentially, countries started using them, again, to show authority and to communicate with each other. We basically have two conventions that roughly deal with vessels in the middle of the oceans. We have a 1958 Convention on High Seas, which basically deals with nationality. It requires nations to create a procedure under which they will give nationality to their own boats. Essentially registration of boats. And then we have a 1982 United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. And essentially under this convention, the countries that signed on, it said that a military ship can stop a merchant ship if there is suspicion that piracy is going on, or slave trade, or if that ship is refusing to show the flag. If you noticed, nothing about drugs. In the 1982 convention, no drugs were mentioned. But this is a drug case. And after all, we have United States Coast Guard trying to stop a ship after suspecting that they have drugs on the boat. The boat got stopped 500 miles from Central America. Think about it. I will post a map here to show you where it is. It is nothing close to the United States. So here's where the question becomes, why are we even there? Why is the Coast Guard miles and miles away from the United States? And how does the court in the United States have jurisdiction over this case? You would think none of these conventions deal with it. So what happens? Well, under international law, stateless vessels can be subject to a stop and inspection if there's suspicion of illegal activity. A country stopping can assert jurisdiction without nexus and without connection. What does that mean? Well, it means the United States, when it goes out there in the international waters, if somebody does not have a flag making that ship stateless, United States can enforce its laws and have jurisdiction over that boat, over that vessel, even without nexus. So the United States government does not need to show that they have jurisdiction. Just by the fact that this boat is stateless, without a flag, United States can enforce our own laws. Something that all the countries have agreed to is that stateless vessels, those that are not registered without a flag, are international pariahs and have no rights to navigate freely on high seas, which means they may be subjected to the jurisdiction of any state. Again, without any nexus to that country, any country, but in this case, United States, can enforce its laws simply because this vessel is stateless. And because it is, we're going out 500 miles from Central America. And again, I'll post the picture of the map. And we're enforcing laws there. Now, I have a problem with it. If you look at the convention, and if you look at all the laws, it doesn't say that the vessel must fly a flag. But there are some laws, both domestic and international, dealing with what happens if you don't fly a flag. And if you don't fly a flag, which is what happened in this case, there was no picture on the side of the boat, and there was no physical flag flown, United States Coast Guard can get on that boat and enforce our laws. I hope this video demonstrated a little bit to you how stateless vessels at high seas operate, how United States Coast Guard operates in these kind of cases. My problem with the law is that I think we're using and wasting a lot of our resources trying to stop the drug trade that's happening nowhere close to the United States. And if we can, in fact, interdict a boat that far away, if we have intel that these boats are out there, why can't we just wait for these boats to come closer to the United States? And so if you work in this arena, or if you just enjoyed this video, comment below, let me know what do you think about the law. And if you enjoyed this video, click like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button, so next time I post, you'll be first to know.